In this video, we look at Power BI's ability to fix errors on imported Excel workbooks and to append different sheets into one query. Secondly, we then look at the relationships that are automatically created in Power BI. So, let's start. The context is COVID cases over the last 3 years. Please note a disclaimer. All figures are fictitious. So here in Excel we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sheets, the different COVID variants, including older ones like MERS and SARS. Just remember, all numbers are fictitious. Then we got GO1 and GO2 and GO3. Notice that there are some errors here. There are blank rows, firstly. Secondly, you will see there's a text entry in a date column. That's an error. Thirdly, you will notice that in this case, Belarus has a comma delimiter, semicolon delimiter before it, which is what we don't want. Ukraine has a period there. If only during 2019, Ukraine knew what was in store. And so GO2 has not many errors at all. GO3 has similar errors. Myanmar, for example, also going through difficulties at the moment. So, COVID variants over here, Delta, Beta, Alpha, SARS, COVID-2, and MERS. And so notice also that this data is completely fictitious. So that's the file. Let's get out of this file. Let's go to Power BI. In Power BI, what we have is the ability to pull this data in, and once we pull this data in, it is in fact to start manipulating the data. Let's get Power BI up and running. Looking good. Power BI, firstly, let's pull the data in. There we go. And Power Query is going to establish the connection, and we're going to be looking at these 4 files, 4 sheets. Right, let's have a look at them. Import them all, but not load them. Let's just transform the data. Alrighty. So there are null entries in GO3. There's a mistake with Myanmar. It's picked them all up. Notice what happens is the green line on top indicates whether it has perceived errors. Now, it doesn't always perceive the errors. Notice there's a slight black line there, and we'll see it's 3-4%, 3 records, 4% empty. It'll pick that up. Okay, all right. But it's not always a great indicator, but in this case, it's fairly accurate. So let's go to, firstly, COVID variants, nothing wrong there. So let's go to GO1, let's reduce the rows, let's remove rows and remove blank rows. First error sorted. Notice those little black lines are gone. But it hasn't picked up the other error, and mainly because it's referred to this as a text. Okay, so let's change the type of that and make a date, and now it is an error, and you will notice now there's no longer a green line there. There's a little red area there. Okay, error is 3% over there. Okay. Let's go and fix GO2 as well. Okay, I don't think GO2 has any problems on the dates. No. Let's go and look at GO3. There are some null rows. Okay, so let's get rid of those, reduce rows, remove blank rows. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to replace errors on GO1. Okay, replace errors on GO1. So there we go. Right click, replace errors. Now you can do one of two things. You can delete the errors, but we still want to keep that data. Let's say we've had a meeting, we decided that those errors actually were 1 January 2020. So there we go. We've just done it. And okay, done, fixed. All right, let's look at Geo2, and everything is okay there. Let's look at Geo3. All right, so we've done a cleanup of the data. Now the next thing we want to do is in fact an appending of the data, and that will sort this particular video out. The next video will show how we now pull the data in and we start manipulating it. Right, so let's go here to appending. We go to combine. We want to combine Geo2 to Geo3 to Geo1, or both of them to Geo1 in a new query. Append queries as new. There we go. So first table, we have 3 or more tables. Geo1 is already there, so let's add Geo2 and Geo3. And okay. Now it's done. It's created an extra table. Append 1. Okay. Aha, but there were some other errors, if you recall. The other errors included strange delimiters and all sorts of things. So there we go, for example, the Congo. So let's select them and let's go replace values, semicolon with nothing, replace values, colon with nothing, okay, replace values, period with nothing, and maybe there were commas as well with nothing. This is the trend in our data. So, well done. We fixed it all, and now what we're going to do is we're going to close and apply, and it uses Power Query to pull it in. It's loading it into the Power BI window so that we can start manipulating the data. Just before this video ends, please note the relationships have been set. Okay, look at this. The relationships have been set. If I were to zoom out, okay, all right. So we have that relationship, variant ID, that relationship, variant ID with, let's just scroll down here, variant ID, that relationship, variant ID with ID, and that relationship, variant ID with ID. Okay, quite interesting. Okay. I think there are others. Are there others? No, it's just variant ID all the way. Okay, all right, so that's what we've done there. Let's ring off on this video. Okay, now here's video number 2 regarding Power BI. The fixing of errors, which we've done in video number 1, checking of relationships and appending. And now we're in video number 2, and we've just checked our relationships. We're going back to the tapestry, and we're happy. Remember, append 1, COVID variants, Geo1, Geo2, Geo3. Let's firstly just create a simple matrix, which is basically a pivot table. And let's look at the different cases. We can go to the append case, the append one there, and we can also look at the COVID variants here. So if we look at the variant type, it will put it automatically under the rows. So they're the different COVID variants. And let's be positive. Let's look at the recovery rate. So we look at the recovery rate and the recovery rate. So there we go. All right, recovery of the various ones. Okay, we can now add a slicer for countries, and it's going to be a big one. And that, of course, will be location. All right, and there they are, the locations, all of them. So we've looked at all of these, and we're happy with that matrix. It's not a great visualization. The visualization I'm more interested in is a ribbon chart. So with the ribbon chart, we activate it here, and we're going to make it quite big, okay? Because there's a lot of data on a ribbon chart. Notice that it has created a date hierarchy, which is very helpful. So we're going to put year there. It automatically arranges itself on the bottom, on the x-axis. There we go. And we are going to look at the recovery rate. Okay. All right. But we want to look at the variant types. Okay, and that we put in the legend. There we go. So our ribbon chart is active there. Now just let's look at the logic of this. If I were to activate my data labels, turn them on, you would see the particular variant Delta in 2020 had 3.1 million recoveries. Okay, we can now progress over time because in 2021 there were virtually none. Okay, all right. That's beta. Okay, it's very, very low, so I'd have to be, there's the different variants. Okay, you'd see 2020 was the worst year, 2019 very low as well. Right, now the beauty of the ribbon chart is that it does show proportions. Okay, and the proportions are arranged as follows. So look at the decrease in the Delta variant. Okay, from 3.119 to, well, I'm not quite sure what, but anyway, we could see that's SARS, beta. I don't think there were any deltas in, according to these figures anyway. All right, but notice there were 1.9 million betas recoveries in 2021, whereas there were only 0.7 million there. Very, very helpful chart. Once again, interactive with the slicer. Okay, so that works quite well.